Welcome back, friends. I'm so excited to share with you today a special message. It's a message of love and patience, and it's a tough topic to talk about. Nobody really wants to talk about dementia care, how we take care of our loved ones, especially our aged loved ones that have developed memory loss. Maybe they've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and everybody knows somebody that knows someone that has this condition, and it's just not fun to talk about. I'm going to start off with today's devotional because I feel like it fits. It's my Be Still and Know devotional. And it says, this is March 31st, constant love. Above all, maintain constant love for one another, for love covers a multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4:8. It's such a beautiful Bible verse. And it says, have you ever been shown kindness that you didn't deserve? What did it feel like to be given love when you deserved hate? To be given a second chance when all you should have gotten was a door slammed in your face? We will wrong one another and we will be wronged by others. It's the human condition, but that is why the love of God is the only perfect solution for us. Love can cover even a million wrongs. When we choose love and kindness over anger and revenge, the sins that seem so intense suddenly fade away. Love is the presence of Jesus in us, and Jesus is the only true antidote for sin. Jesus, thank you for your grace. I'm going to need it today. I pray that you will give me your love for the people that I interact with today. And if I'm wronged, help me to choose kindness. So this is a perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about, which is giving love to people that are unlovable, right? Teenagers, unlovable. Crabby toddlers, unlovable. And yes, dementia patients, unlovable. I've personally gone through this and I've seen it where people carry so much guilt, especially caregivers, because they have a really hard time with giving the love to a dementia patient or consistently being patient, consistently saying like, I know you're having a bad day. It's okay. I'm here for you. We're going to get past this. And it's a struggle. And that's why I wrote my book, Unbinding Love, because whether it's from mental health or physical health, when you are a caregiver and you watch somebody that you love deteriorate, it's horrible grief. It's really difficult. And I know that if you're listening to this and you have been through this, you know what I'm talking about, right? Ambiguous grief. It's grieving over somebody that has not passed away yet, but they're not the same person that you knew. And so that's what I deal with almost every day with my mom. That's why dementia is so difficult. But today I'm going to give you 10 tips. These are 10 positive tips that you can use if you love somebody with dementia. But first, I'm just going to go over the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, because I too was kind of curious. They seem to be kind of used intertwinedly, like they're the same term, but they're not. So dementia is a chronic or persistent disorder of the mental processes caused by brain disease or injury marked by memory disorder. Could be a personality change or impaired reasoning. Now, Alzheimer's is the condition that will cause dementia. It's one of the conditions. You can also have maybe Parkinson's, which will cause you to have dementia as well. But Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. Alzheimer's is a specific disease and dementia is not. 5 million Americans suffer from dementia. Now, Alzheimer's is, irreversible brain disease that will cause a person to have memory loss. They will lose functions such as thinking. The most common type of Alzheimer's is trouble with using the right words, or you might forget how to use a pencil or that type of thing. And then eventually it can lead to body loss and immobility and unable to walk or things like that. Maybe even swallowing. That might be one of the last functions that a person will lose in Alzheimer's. And it's really just a horrible thing to even think about or discuss, because we don't want to think about that and think about death and that type of thing. Okay, so how do we segue to the good news? All right, so one of the disturbing parts about dementia is that oftentimes your loved one will have their own narrative or their own story, and it's not real. And so my number one first tip is to let them have their story. My mom's going to marry Toby Keith, the country western singer, and I don't burst her bubble and say, no, you're not, Mom. That's not true. I say, okay, good, great. You and Toby are doing good. Okay. And we might talk about that. And if she's okay or good enough to talk to me about that, then I'm going to have a conversation with her about Toby Keith. And that's just the way it is. Another like common scenario is that they will say that relatives that have passed on are still living, or vice versa, relatives that are still living have passed on. And so a lot of times I've had to do that with my mom where, she'll say, Aunt Mary passed away. And I'll be like, oh, did she? Because I just talked to her yesterday. So you just kind of go with the flow. And it's really important that you do this because if you do kind of burst their bubble, they get really agitated and they get even scared because then they realize, wait a minute, something's wrong. Well, how could that be? I know this is right. It's just not good for them and it's not good for you. So let them have their story. Number two, let them have their independence for as long as possible. So if you know somebody that's in the early phases of dementia and they're still able to walk, talk, and do things, take them out, take them shopping, go to a movie, go do something, because as they progress, they're not going to be able to do those things. And so I encourage you to just use this time with, if it's your parent, your mom, your dad, whoever, just spend time with them and do those things that they love to do, because you just don't know how long they're going to be able to do it. For my mom, she loved to go shopping. We would go to Kohl's and we walk around, and it was really not fun for me. I'm not I don't like to shop, and probably Kohl's would be the last place I want to go, especially on a Saturday when it's super busy and there's a lot of, elderly people walking around, or older people, I should say. That was something my mom just absolutely loved. And so I did that with her for as long as I could. When she was in a wheelchair and she couldn't walk, then I brought Kohl's to her with my iPhone, and I would pull up the Kohl's app and I'd say, hey mom, what do you think of these purple pajamas? And she'd be like, oh, those are cute. Or no, I don't need that. And so we would just shop. And then what's really slick is you can order it and pick it up the same day. So, I would quick order it before she forgot about it. Number three, let them have their comforts, like comfort foods, their favorite music, their favorite things from the past. And when I say the past, I mean the old past, because recent memories are more than likely gone at this point. But it's the older memories that stick around longer, and you want to take advantage of that. So, if they had a favorite food when they were a kid, that's probably their favorite food now. Also, an interesting thing is my mom went back to her childhood name because that's what she remembered. So we all call her Lainey, even though she was Elaine for many, many years. Obviously when I was older, when I was a child, she went by Elaine. But as the dementia progressed, she preferred Lainey, and that's what she remembered her being called by her parents. So just keep those comforting things around them. Maybe they love just a Rip Your Float or something like that, that nostalgia that, you and I get to when we have good old comfort foods. And this can go a long way with them. And so just don't forget about that. And the old music, don't forget the oldies. My mom loves Toby Keith country western. She was born in the 40s. So even though, she loves Neil Diamond and the Beatles and all that, she also loves some music even from the 80s. So, okay, number four, expect them to get testy and even aggressive. This is just a reality. And I don't really have much to say about this except try not to take it personal. It's not them, it's the disease. And I mean, they're going to have good days and bad days, just like you and I have good days and bad days. So you can expect that on some days they're going to just be more agitated. And, when it's that type of a day, let them have that type of day, and don't push them to do more than what they're able to do. I have more to say about that, but I'm going to move on to number five. Try to make them laugh. This is so key, and we all need it, right? But for them especially, they need to have laughter in their lives. They need to know that life isn't all serious. And one of the ways that I get my mom to laugh is when she complains about her nursing home. I'll say, well, okay, mom, why don't you come live with us? Because we need a nanny. And then she always half laughs and half thinks that I'm telling the truth. But it gets a good chuckle out of her because she thinks, oh gosh, I could never live with you and be your nanny, But I also make jokes, and yes, sometimes it's sexual jokes because that kind of works with her. But I mean, I try to keep it clean, but I'll maybe say like, okay, here's another joke. My mom has a card in her, like on her wall. It was like somebody sent her a happy birthday card, and it's a male model with his shirt off. And so I'll just say, "Oh, how's your boyfriend today?" And I'll point to the picture, and she'll laugh and she'll giggle. And, you know, we have to lighten up. We can't be so serious. Dementia robs us of joy and of laughter. So why not bring that back to your loved one by, creating small, funny moments? And they really do go a long ways. Number 6, don't push them to do things like go see a doctor when they're having a bad day. So this is kind of like what I touched on earlier, but it's one step further. So I learned this the hard way when I used to be in charge, and still am in charge, of making appointments for my mom. But now, because she's in a nursing home, it comes to her. But before then, I would have to schedule her appointments and then drive her and take her to her appointments. And if it was a bad day, I would kind of push through because I would think, oh gosh, we can't be late, or, the doctor's expecting us, or whatever. But when somebody has dementia, you have to respect that if it's a bad day, it's just a bad day. And they're not going to cooperate. They're not going to want to. They don't have that desire, and they really can't help it. So if you can tell that they're, not willing to put their socks on, or they don't want to get dressed, whatever it is, like just let it be and say, okay, that's fine. We'll do it a different day. I've had to do it a couple times, and my mom is like, she doesn't even notice. Like, she's just like, okay. And by that point, I think my mom maybe didn't really quite understand what was happening anyway. And again, your loved one may be more progressed or less progressed, but regardless, it's really important to keep in mind to meet them where they're at, and don't force them to go the extra mile when they're not ready to. Number 7, they need to be touched. This is so important. We all need physical touch. We all need hugs and kisses and love. And, I think when we're, most of us are in marriages or relationships, and we're used to having that touch. And if you're a mom, especially a young mom, you're constantly being touched, right? So you're not thinking about this. But when you get to an older age, and when you are a widow or a widower, or if you've been through a divorce, and you know what I'm talking about, it's that lack of touch. And I think that's why I've heard that when you go through a divorce or you've lost a recent spouse, it's really important to go get a massage, just get touched again. It's very healing and positive, and it's a good thing to do. And I think that we forget that our loved ones at our age that are in nursing homes, or maybe they're living with you and they have dementia, they need to be touched, they need to be caressed, they need to know that they're loved, they need to feel that. And that's why baths go such a long way. So again, if you are taking care of somebody, showers, I mean, are okay as long as you're there to assist. But for my mom, she really loves a bubble bath. She loves to just sit and relax. Where she's at in her nursing home, they have like a jacuzzi, and she just sits in that thing, and it's like the best thing. And if she doesn't get her bath, she gets very worked up. And I understand why, because it just kind of feels like a hug. But when my mom's having a bad day, I talk about in my book, a lot of times I just put my hand on her hand, or I put my hand on her back, or I try to touch her, because I know that she needs that, even if she isn't able to communicate it. And she really isn't at this point able to say that she wants touch, but I can tell because there's a little bit of a twinkle when I touch her. And even if she can't talk to me, she can still say like, "Oh, honey, I love you," with her eyes. So, okay. So don't forget, hug your loved one, hold their hands. Number 8, it's normal to lose your cool with them. This is tough. It's normal to become impatient, especially if you're a caregiver. It's normal when on days that you feel like your cup isn't full. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe you're dealing with your own marriage issues or your own children. Whatever it is, if your cup isn't full, it's going to be a lot harder to be more understanding with a dementia patient. I know for me, it's that way where I a couple times I would like lose it and snap and be like, "Mom, just leave Toby out of this. Okay. He's not taking you to your appointment. I am," you know? And I've talked about this to my aunt, my mom's sister, who they're very close. And she feels guilty. Like sometimes she'll say, "Elaine, that's not true." And then she'll feel kind of guilty about that. So if that's you, don't feel guilty. Just know that it's normal. It's a part of caregiving for somebody that has memory issues. And there's a whole slew of things going on here, and it's complicated. And I think that what's best is if you are a caregiver to give yourself that grace and just know that, only God's love is perfect. We want to love like God. We want to be like Jesus, but we are not. We're flawed, and it's just the way that it is. So, give yourself a pat on the back. And if you've lost it with them, there's always tomorrow. And that's a great quote. There's always tomorrow. It can always be better. And unfortunately, it can always be worse. So, just take it for where you are right now and just be happy for whatever you have. And when I say that, I mean, like, your loved one is still here, so enjoy that, because once they are gone in heaven, you're not going to have them anymore. And that's a really sobering thought, and it's sad, but it's a reality. So there you go. And then number 10, it's hard not to take things personally, but you can't. Okay. This whole situation with caring for somebody and loving somebody and trying to give them the grace that God gave us, it's going to be hard not to take it personally if they tell you they hate you or they're upset or they're angry, but that this is just par for the course. Bottom line is you love them and you want the best for them, but they're really not who they used to be. And this is hard. I just the other day I was struggling and I called up my friend and we were talking on the phone, and I was just like, I just am really missing my mom. And I imagine, like, if she didn't have her illness, we would be out shopping and I would be talking to her about the kids, and we would be like going for walks. And she just kind of took a deep breath and she was like, Rebecca, I don't do that now with my mom. And my mom does not have a condition. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah. The mother-daughter relationship isn't perfect. In fact, no relationship is perfect, father-daughter, father-son, whatever. I mean, families are complex. I always imagine that my life would be so perfect if my mom didn't have the condition she had. And it's just false. It's just false. And so that kind of helped me wake up a little bit and go, maybe I just need to appreciate that I have the relationship with my mom that I do. And what if this is how God meant it to be? And obviously it is, because God is a purposeful God and he doesn't make mistakes. And so I just had to think about that a little bit. And it was kind of comforting to know that, okay, I'm in this situation, and you are too. If you are caring for someone with dementia or you love somebody with Alzheimer's, this is hard and it sucks. And there are days where you're going to wish it wasn't there, of course, but try to see the beauty in it. Try to see the good, and maybe even some of the life lessons that you've learned, like to slow down and to enjoy them. And I think sometimes, and I could be wrong, but sometimes when we have family that are healthy in our lives, we kind of take them for granted. And then one day they may not be here and it's a shock. It's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. My mom was always there for me, or my dad, or whoever. And dementia is a warning. It's a wake-up call, like, okay, your time with them is limited. And so I think the beauty in it is it allows us to take a deep breath, and it allows us to really love and accept them for who they are. I hope this helps somebody. This is not an easy conversation. I want to close with today's talk with some upcoming things with the show, where I'm going to be taking the next 4 episodes are going to be the Power of series. So we're going to talk about the power of intimacy, the power of friendship, the power of, yes, having a pet. And I may throw in a couple others, but this is going to be just a fun new way of taking the channel. And I'm excited to announce that I'm going to be having more authors come back to the show. So one of the authors that I'm going to be having is Shauna Harris, and she is a friend of mine, and she wrote the book Speaking of Sex. And I read it and I thought it was really good. I thought it was a great reminder that in marriage, this is a part of life that, we need to talk about intimacy, and it's kind of an awkward conversation, kind of like talking about dementia. It's really maybe not fun, but I think that it's good. I think it's good to talk about these things. So I'm really excited to bring Shonda to the show. She's excited too. So that's going to be coming up. And if you want to do some extra credit and you're interested in pumping up your marriage, your love life, then I encourage you to go out, check out her book on Amazon, Speaking of Sex, Shauna Harris. I have a couple other guests coming on the show as well. And I think I'll tell you more about it next week when I get the timeline figured out. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of Cheering Past Challenges and our community. I'm so blessed by all of you, friends and family and listeners that have purchased my book, Unbinding Love. It is out on paperback right now, and we are #1 new release. So that has felt really good just to see the book do so well. But if you are listening and you haven't heard about the book before, but you are loving someone with dementia, I recommend that you pick up my book and read it. It's a book that shares my story of loving on my mom and getting through some of these tough things, and also relying on my faith to get through these things. And then I offer some pretty cool tips, and I have a free e-course as well. So when you purchase the book as a gift, you get a free 10 steps to finding inner peace in caregiving. And I hope that you'll check it out. I hope that it blesses you. Please, please rate this podcast if it's blessed you. If you're on YouTube, will you like it and just let me know that you've watched it? I really appreciate all of you. I hope you have a good night. Thanks so much. Take care. God bless.